Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings NBA players to fade for Friday, January 8th. Let's call up the slideshow and talk about some of the guys who we're not going to be putting in our lineups tonight. The three guys that are on this list for me are Steph Curry at 10,500, Carmelo Anthony at 7,800, and the surprising one to a lot of people is probably going to be Victor Oladipo at 6,600. Steph Curry is a pretty easy fade for me tonight. They're a big favorite in this game at -10, and he might be the first guy that gets rested coming off his injury if this game does turn into a blowout late. Since coming back from his injury, they've been taking it slow with him, so his minutes, his field goal attempts, and his assists are all down, as well as his points scored. So obviously that's all going to translate into lower fantasy points for him as well. At 10,500, you're going to need about 60 points out of Steph in order for him to reach value for you. And you're going to need over 70 for him to really give you added value to help you win a tournament. His ceiling since his return has been about 40 fantasy points. So you're going to need to see him play a lot more minutes and do a lot more of what he used to do. He's playing somewhere south of around 30 minutes right now. And he used to play somewhere around 40 minutes per game. So again, if you're not going to get that kind of minutes out of him, you're probably not going to get the production that you need. He may still have a big quarter or two here or there, but I don't think he's going to see the minutes he normally does. And 10,500 is quite a bit to spend up for a guy. The next guy we're going to talk about is Carmelo Anthony at 7,800. He plays at San Antonio in a game that has a lower total as an underdog. There's really no worse situation you could want for your superstar that you're going to pay up for. San Antonio is a slower paced team, and they're very good on the defensive end of the floor. So it's not going to be an easy time for Melo to put up some points. He has one of the worst matchups you can possibly have against Kawhi Leonard, who's one of the best defensive players that we have in the league. The last time these two teams met earlier in the season, Melo only managed to put up 31 fantasy points, which is basically a little above 3x value for him. That's definitely not going to be enough to get it done in this matchup. The last guy that I'm going to talk about is probably my boldest fade of the day. With Peyton likely still out, you're going to see 30 minutes from Depot. He's probably going to be the starting point guard. He's put up about 30-something minutes in his last couple games. In 3 of his last 4 games, he's put up 34-ish fantasy points. Now, you're probably saying to me, well, then why are you going to fade him today if he's been able to do that? Well, he did that at below $6,000. He plays in a slow-paced game today against Brooklyn, and the price has jumped almost $1,000 up to $6,600. So you're going to need at 34 fantasy points out of him, which is basically what he's averaged in 3 of the last 4 good games he's had. You're barely getting 5x value out of him. In order to get upside here, you're going to need him to go, probably about 40, 45 fantasy or 40, 42 fantasy points. And I just really don't see him doing that against Brooklyn. Even though Brooklyn's without their starting point guard, I think this is just going to be a slow-paced game. Brooklyn plays slow, Orlando plays slow, and I just really don't see how Depot's going to get to 40 points here. Does he have a chance to do it? Maybe, but I think he's going to be incredibly high owned, and I think that he has a better chance of only getting you maybe to that 5x value. I don't see the upside really in tournaments of him getting you 50 fantasy points in this game. So therefore, I think Oladipo is probably my boldest call of the day, but he's also going to be somebody who I'm going to be fading. Definitely fading in tournaments. I could still see an argument to be made for him in cash games because, again, 34 points, 5x value, that's still pretty safe. But I just don't see him getting a big game into the 40s and really giving you upside today. So those are the 3 players that I'm looking at to fade on this Friday slate for NBA DFS. We'll be back in a little bit with some of the players who we think you should be putting in your lineup, some of the guys we think can help you win those tournaments. But sometimes it's just as important to know who not to play as it is who to play. So thank you for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.